let's go. So, alongside the balance changes to all the classes, we also have some changes to relics and new relics, which we are going to go over, in fact. So, let's talk about these first. And the reasoning behind this, they kind of talked about this a little bit, is that basically most relics are bad. And in fact, they literally said that. Trig, kind of the new guy on the block, just flat out said, yeah, some of the relics, not good. And you know what? Of course, he's completely right. Like, some of the relics very lackluster, and I think not all of these are going to be super exciting. Relic of Leadership is actually pretty juicy. 5 conditions converted. But some of them have been massively improved, and there's a lot of quality of life on some of the important ones, too. So, very notable here, we have Relic of the Monk. No ICD on this. Really nice quality of life. This makes this way more playable. I am actually going to say something, though. I almost don't like that Relic of the Monk exists, because it is actually very hard for this relic to be dethroned in PvE. To be frank, anywhere where you care about healing output. Because it's very good. It just gives you 10% more healing to every healing effect, including regeneration. I almost feel like 10% is actually too strong. It still gives you that 10% extra healing. And now that it's way easier to apply and maintain that, I don't know, it's a big roadblock, I think. Like, this is one of the issues that some of the relics have, like raw output relics, rather than more specialized relics, like, oh, it applies a certain boon, oh, it applies a certain condition, oh, it makes a certain condition better, oh, it makes your might a little bit better, right? Well, yeah, that maybe that one wasn't such a good idea, but anyway, you know what I mean, right? Like, making them generic makes them very powerful a lot of the time. So they got to be careful there. But that rant aside, let's look at the other relics. Relic of the Water. This is, when it activates, you get a condition cleanse around you, and it's 2 now. That's actually pretty damn good. Because, of course, I believe it activates on your healing skill with a pretty short internal cooldown. It's a 20-second internal cooldown, and you can remove 2 conditions. So actually pretty damn good. Actually, just for getting additional condition cleanse output. Again, one of those relics is going to struggle because there's better ones, like the one in particular, right? You have a relic that whenever you use a shout, it's going to remove a condition from everyone around you. That's a very, very good effect, obviously. So, yeah, is it particularly good? Not totally sure about that one, to be honest. Relic of the Centaur, you gain 2 stacks of stability and 3 seconds of it when you use a heal skill. Actually pretty nifty. I honestly wouldn't hate running that in probably like I want to say like an open world context, or actually in a world versus world roaming context, maybe on some kind of celestial build that has some boon duration to make that stability last a little bit longer, because I believe the internal cooldown on Relic of the Centaur is actually pretty low. Let me quickly go and check that for us. Relic. It's a 20-second ICD. Well, I mean, that's not that good, actually. But, well, look. I'm coping here, okay, guys. Look, let's get to the actual interesting one. This one's pretty good. Relic of Resistance. This effect now grants this effect to allies in a radius of 360. This says whenever you use an elite skill, you gain resistance. Now, that's going to be AoE resistance for 5 seconds. Actually, very powerful effect. And I think this is actually how relics can be very cool, because this means that any build can now actually have AoE resistance access, which, of course, is not something that every build necessarily has. I think you can make it a little bit spiciness, a little bit more flair, and we'll see some of those in the new ones, believe me. I think what's pretty cool about this, though, is that it isn't an output one, it's like a niche utility relic. And I think this is where relics can really come into their own. I hope we see more like this, I think, overall. Relic of the Herald. This relic now also grants its bonus while applying boons to yourself. Increase the concentration per stack from 15 to 25. This relic no longer has an internal cooldown. Again, way more usable, and it's obviously way better. It's instead of being 10% boon duration, it's more like, like 16% boon duration. Is that good? No, because most builds are not going to have issues with capping boon duration. I could maybe actually... I was going to say in PvP it's better because concentration is harder to come by, but honestly not really. Because the other relics are really good. Particularly the support ones, the condition cleanse ones, or the damage output ones are really good. Like Akeem and stuff like that. Fireworks Relic and so on. So yeah, probably still no. Zephyrite, yeah, no. Relic of Vass, this one's actually pretty cool. I actually like this. When you use an elixir skill or your heal skill, you will basically get 3 stacks of like a venom that will apply a poison to people, and you also get 5 seconds of poison, so it's a fair bit of damage. It's a cool effect. Is it good? I mean, I don't really know a build that would use this. That's the thing, right? Like, you'd want to be some kind of... You'd almost want to be Thief, because Thief has extra poison damage. It's the class that has a poison damage and duration modifier trait. But of course, you don't have elixirs, right? So it's not really that good. So it's going to be NG or Harbinger. I think maybe you could use this on some kind of NG build, a Condi NG build maybe? Elixir, using Elixir Gun or something like that. Because that actually does count alongside Mortar-Kit with the Elixir Shell, I guess. But I mean, I don't know. It's a fun effect, but it's almost like a little bit too niche. It's a hard balance to strike, right? Like, you can really actually see, you can see how hard relics are to design, because if you make them too niche, they're like, well, I mean, what build even uses this, right? Or it's like going to be like exactly one build that uses it. And Relic of, it's a little bit similar with Relic of Paether, I feel like. This is a difficult thing to find a build for. So this basically says whenever you dodge, I believe, and it's whenever you do, it's whenever you shadow step, or you use a deception skill, I believe, you fire a dagger at someone, and then after that, you also gain extra damage on your next attack. But now you gain extra damage for the next 4 seconds, and you get a little bit more torment in PvE only in that regard. So this one is also a pretty interesting one, because again, it has this slightly unusual situation here, is that it's power and Condi, right? You apply torment, right? But then you get strike damage afterwards. It's quite interesting, actually. Now, of course, Thief can actually trigger this a huge amount. Like, that might be what could be big here. Like, a Spectre, for example, can maybe get some value out of this, right? Or some kind of conditioned Thief build that uses Shadow Steps to basically spam out this dagger a huge amount. All this kind of good stuff there as well. But it's a bit of a weird one. I'm not sure if I'm currently aware of a build. Maybe I'm out of the loop and there is some build that's absolutely going to love this. It is a pretty cool and interesting effect, I think. But I'm not sure. Yeah, it's been made a lot better, obviously, because you have a 10% mod, basically, for 4 seconds instead of for 1 attack. Obviously, way better. And you just get 50% more torment duration. I'm just not sure if there's a build for this one yet. And next, here we go. Oh, yeah. Oh my god, you're completely correct. Blade Sworn. Yeah, you can do this with, like, the troll pistol dagger build and just, like, teleport back and forth with, like, the new pistol dagger. That is true, actually. But yeah, actually, Blade Sword, no? Because, yeah, you can use Flicker Step, and then you can Dragon Trigger. Let's go! That's actually big. Like, you know, you fire out your dagger, get your 4 seconds of torment, and then you get a 10% bigger dragon slash. That's actually big. Ah, woo. But I guess wait, hang on a minute. But you could have done that anyway, right? Thing is, you could already have done that. Because you weren't going to do any extra attacks anyway, right? You only do Dragon Trigger. I guess if you accidentally attack instead, and I don't know, it's whatever. I mean, that maybe a little bit copium there. And Relic of the Ice. This right now shoots ice at the nearest 5 enemies 3 times. 5th nearest enemies. Projectiles inflict vulnerability, increase the chill duration from 1 second to 1.5, and the damage coefficient from 0.5 to 1.0 in PvE only. So this is actually a lot of AoE damage, and quite interesting, actually, if you stand in the hitbox of the target, it will actually cause all of the icicles to hit the target. So if you have like a multi-target fight and you're playing a Condi Reaper and you activate your Relic of the Ice using your elite skill, you will actually hit all 15 icicles, assuming that there are enough targets for that, on the same target for a massive burst of bleeding stacks from your Deathly Chill. Other than that, though, this probably makes it slightly... I mean, you don't even use it on Reaper right now. You use Relic of the Fractal. It is a cool relic. I kind of wish this was kind of the meta relic on Condi Reaper, because it, relic of the ice, right? That makes sense. It's obvious synergy there. Applying the vulnerability is good. That definitely helps it out in kind of competitive game modes. That's for sure, because like having more Condis to cover them so they're hard to cleanse is pretty important in that regard. Especially with like the slightly longer chill duration, and the AoE is also really nice there as well. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that. That's my thoughts on Relic of the Ice, my friends. Relic of the Ice. I do like they're trying to make the relics more powerful. I do think that part of it has to be design. I think making the relics kind of weirder and wackier and less generic, like Monk, and maybe even stuff like Thief and Firework Relic is probably the way they're going to actually achieve more build diversity here. There's always going to be like a best in slot relic for every build in the game, but if you have loads of weird stuff like Relic of Vass and Relic of Paether, you're probably going to see you're going to see a bunch of different relics across the board, right? I think that kind of doing weirder and wackier interactions is the way that you can kind of foster some of this diversity. And, well, as we're about to see, that does appear to be the direction that they want to go in, as we can see here. Here, I have some screenshots of the new relics. So we've got 6 new relics, which is coming with November 7th. So we have Relic of Naos. Removing a condition from yourself heals you. So basically, big sustain relic here. So anytime you're facing conditions, either in PvP, or world versus world, or maybe in some open world scenarios when you don't have a healer around you, you will now heal yourself. Again, we don't have numbers here. I almost wish they had shown numbers so we could get a feel for how powerful this is. But it could be a very powerful sustain relic in a lot of these situations, because again, that's not just damaging conditions, that's just, anything like vulnerability, cripple, chill, blind, whatever. And as a result of that, there's always going to be Condis flying about, so you're pretty much always going to get value out of this in this kind of situation. Relic of Febit. When you use a healing skill, grant nearby allies swiftness and remove movement impairing conditions from them. Very strong, actually, by the way. That is an effect and a half right there. A good example of this is maybe something like a Firebrand, for example, in World vs. World. You can break people out of snares with your healing skill now. Really cool. I'm expecting a pretty hefty ICD on this, and effects like this being so powerful and so important to get right and know if you have them available, we need telegraphing for this more than ever. They are actually taking some steps to improve this. They are saying that they are going to fix the tooltips. So now when you mouse over a relic, you'll actually see what it does a little bit better. That's coming in the next patch, I believe, or maybe the balance patch. I can't remember what they said exactly, but it's coming, which is great, obviously. However, we need some kind of telegraphing for this. If we're going to have really strong effects like this that are really important for the player to control, impactful effects that are actually going to be an important part of a player's gameplay, it needs to be communicated to the player. And right now, it isn't. And they can do it. For example, I think it's really cool that the relic of the Wizard's Tower actually allows you get a little orb. You use a signet once, then when you use a signet again, it gives AoE resistance around you, and you have a little orb when it's active. That's great. We need some kind of telegraphing like that. If it's an icon, if it's a weak aura, or anything, because it is a bit of a fiesta right now with actually figuring out when you have some of these abilities actually affecting you. And when you have them, accessible. But yeah, this one actually, I think, is pretty powerful. Again, especially in competitive modes, because being able to remove anything is pretty good. I actually think there could be some niche usage for this, by the way. Funnily enough, actually on something like Heal Necro. And I like the idea of filling holes in boons for a lot of builds. For example, Heal Necro's swiftness is kind of non-existent. So, hey, maybe you want to use a Relic of Febit to fill out the swiftness if there's no one else who can provide it for whatever reason. Pretty unlikely, but you never know. It might happen. Funnily enough, Heal Chrono doesn't really have swiftness either, does it? So, yeah, GG, I guess. But yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's just a bit of a larger complaint overall. I think that improving the telegraphing of internal cooldowns yeah, they should do that. Okay, that's not even a hot take. That's the most boring take in the entire universe. But there we are. Next! Okay, so here's some other fun ones. Check this one out. Relic of Caracosa. Heal other nearby allies when you successfully combo a field with a blast finisher. Very specifically, other allies, not you, because they're worried about bunkers in PvP. with this, basically. Again, especially with stuff like NG. They're kind of thinking about NG and Ellie here. NG and Ellie have been some of the most egregious, obnoxious bunkers in the history of the game, and giving them a relic that feeds into that directly may not be the play overall, but this is actually the kind of effect that I really like. This is cool, in my opinion. I love this. It's something that actually changes what your gameplay does. Like, blasting a field now heals. It's like a new effect, a new thing that you can do. I like that. I do indeed like that. Could be very strong too. Again, when I look at this, I go, what build would use this? And Monk Relic is trolling. Okay, Monk Relic is your enemy here. I think this is actually going to struggle in competitive modes purely because I feel like there aren't builds that consistently spam blast finishes that hard. Hey, maybe it heals a lot, then it could be good. And I think a lot of the relics, again, like Relic of the Trooper is really good. Relic of Speed is really good. Like these kind of like very high utility, high uptime, high value ones are incredibly powerful. In World vs. World or whatever other things going on there. But in PvE, I feel like this could be really cool on a number of builds, like Heal NG, for example, has a bunch of blast finishes that it can use, especially Scrapper, right? Can do it a lot, right? Really cool if this is what you would take on Scrapper. But here's the problem. Thief, like spamming short bow or something, not sure about that, but it's a cool idea, right? The problem is that you're going to run Monk. Monk Relic is just so strong that quite often the value you get from this is just going to get bullied by that raw output of the Monk Relic. We kind of talked about it earlier at the start of the segment, right? But that's kind of where I'm feeling about this. Relic of Norris, and this one is going to point out another pretty big design flaw in Relics right now, so buckle up. Gain stacks of Norris Hunger every interval, so every couple of seconds, basically, when you remove boons from enemies. Consume 10 stacks to grow larger. How fun is that? Dealing increased damage, taking reduced damage, and converting damage into healing. What a really cool effect. I love it, especially the fact that you actually grow bigger so you can see like when it happens. Obviously, you're thinking Necromancer here, but I mean, honestly, a lot of things can remove boons these days. Overall, pretty cool. But here's the design issue. It's going to be... The problem here is that you can't control the effect enough. Something like this, more damage, reduced damage, and lifesteal, you want to be able to decide when you do this, but you can't, really. Because if you're, say, playing World vs. World, you're going to be spamming out boon corruption, right? And you'd want this for a push. But the thing is, everyone's relics are going to be desynced. Right? Everyone's stacks aren't going to be synchronized. Same in PvP, right? You want to go in and like blast, but oh, my relic just procced. Blah! Right? And this is the issue. The dream for this is that you have to charge it up to 10 stacks or even more stacks, because this would be way stronger if you could do this. And then you had some way to activate it, almost like an extra action button. It would like give you an action key that you can use, and then that activate. You channel the energy and you get big and you can charge in. That would be good. And really useful. I think a lot of relics could benefit from this. A lot of relics are shackled to the use on elite skill or use on heal skill. This makes them, one, difficult to understand when you can use them, but two, like weirdly cumbersome to use, because you don't get to choose when you use them almost, because sometimes you have to use your heal skill. A lot of times, actually. Sometimes you have to use your elite skill for something, and you're going to proc your relic, and it's like I feel like it's very frustrating and way less fun and way less engaging, and makes the relic way less impactful and kind of a part of your build and a part of your gameplay when you have limited control over when it's actually going to activate. So I do think there needs to be some kind of solution here. If there's some better way to activate these abilities, a better way to activate these relics, as opposed to having them kind of stack up and then like randomly proc, if you could save them and then activate it. I mean, even if they did it something like you gain 10 stacks and when you next use your elite skill, it activates. Even that would be better, to be honest, than this. Because then, at least, let's imagine I'm on my Reaper, right? I'm on my Reaper, I get my 10 stacks, I save my stacks, and then the comps going for a big push here, boys. We're going for a big push. I pop my elite skill, I use my elite shout or whatever I'm using, right? And then, boom. Okay, I turn it, or you're a lich, right? I use my lich form. I turn into a massive lich. We're just charging in, going crazy. I'm giant. I'm taking reduced damage on the push. Right? Yeah, even that, a bit more control, would make this so much better. Because there are loads of really awesome relics that have super interesting effects. I think one that is a perfect example of this is Relic of Leer. Relic of Leer is unbelievably strong. It says whenever you heal someone, they take 50% reduced damage and it gets funneled to you, basically. That is actually a broken effect, but it's made so much worse because you can't control it. Like, you won't be able to actually mitigate damage for your allies because it's going to happen randomly almost. You can't really control it. It's the same here. For this relic to actually be worth using, for it to actually be good, it would have to be broken. It would be like 50% more damage, 25% DR, and like 25% lifesteal. It would have to be so disgustingly strong that it just wouldn't be fun. So the probability of this being kind of a garbage meme relic is unbelievably high, because you just don't have control. Same with Leer, and that's, again, a perfect example. Relic of Leer has a crazy effect. 50% DR is crazy. I should say damage reduction. It's absolutely insane, but it's rendered borderline useless because you just don't have control. And I think that's what's really holding Relics. It's really holding Relics back right now from players having a lot of fun with them. But anyway, that's a bit of a tangent on that one, and let's get to our final two relics. And these ones are cool, actually. And these new relics, there's a bit of a theme here. They are a little bit more out there, and I do like the direction they're going here. Relic of the Midnight King. Might and Fury to nearby allies when you disable an enemy. This is the type of thing that I think can really be exciting for builds, because it means that there's another lever to pull for ArenaNet in terms of balance. It means that, oh, your build can give quickness, but it's not very good at Might and Fury. Well, hey, take this relic, and now you can do that. It fills in, it completes your build. And of course, you wouldn't take it on a build that can do Might and Fury. And this means that not every class has to do 25 Might, because right now that's where we're at. Look, let's not muck about. Right now, if your build can't do 25 Might and it's a support, your build sucks, right? Sorry, that's the way it is. And stuff like this, I think, can really alleviate some of the balance problems that emerge from the state of the game being that way. It's kind of like, you know, fight fire with fire, but honestly, at this point, you might as well, in my opinion. And I think that's pretty good. I think that's pretty enjoyable stuff. And of course, again, if your build, for whatever its purpose, just doesn't have these boons, doesn't have this boon access, that's great. And I think in general, support relics, I think, have a lot of potential that give AoE boons. Again, the AoE healing, right? When you do a blast finisher, we have Might and Fury when you disable an enemy. Great. It's a simple concept, but I think it can be very impactful. Big fan of this. Do I think there is a build that could use this right now? Probably Untamed could do this, could have some value out of this. And actually, I think Heal Scrapper, actually, because Heal Scrapper doesn't have Fury, unless I am mistaken, but it does have Mace, which has a short cooldown CC, and it has actually a lot of CC on it, right? It can actually CC a lot. With a variety of its abilities. So it would be good there. And yeah, you can probably go without the healing, and all of a sudden you have Might and Fury. So there is some potential. And by the way, those are not the only examples. I'm just kind of spitballing here to give a couple of examples and like, how could this be interesting? How could this make the game better? And again, Heal Scrapper doesn't have Fury. Now it does. That's cool. In my opinion. And again, it's a new relic. Instead of going, oh, I guess I'll equip my Monk relic on every single heal build. Well, maybe one heal build doesn't have Fury, so it wants to run Relic of the Midnight King, right? And finally, ooh, I think I can actually feel like World versus World Roamers like screaming in agony. Maybe PvP players as well. Who knows? We'll certainly see. But this one is pretty spicy. So, Relic of the Demon Queen. Poison that you apply reduces healing by an additional amount. Disabling a foe applies poison. So, any CC is going to apply poison. And, of course, healing is reduced even more. It is 50%, by the way. So, the base reduction in healing in... from poison is 33. It's 50% with its relic. And you know what? There's actually some potential. This is really disgusting. A lot of builds in World vs. World, like some of the Conditioned Druid builds, honestly, some of the Conditioned NG builds even, Thief builds. Lots of Connie builds that have poison, very strong. Reducing your opponent's ability to heal, either through their passive stain, through regeneration, through various passive healing effects, through their own heal skill, is very, very good. It's one of the strongest conditions in competitive modes for good reason. And wow, yeah, this is a great relic for it. There's definitely a lot of competition. You know, we shouldn't get too excited yet. There's a lot of competition for condition damage DPS relics. You know, in these competitive modes, a relic of Akeem is very noticeable for being incredibly good on a lot of condition builds, just for absolutely just destroying people with the amount of damage it can do. But this is certainly going to be very good at kind of bullying builds that sustain a lot and basically chopping through that self-healing of a lot of the more sustaining builds. Definitely a powerful effect. And you know what's actually kind of interesting about this? Is that, bear in mind, you don't have to run this on a Condi build. And in fact, it's quite common even to run Relic of Sigil of Doom, right? Or to try and use poison abilities if you're on a power build. You know, something like Mortar Kit on Engineer, for example. You put down poison to prevent your opponents from reviving, right? And to, you know, oppress their healing potential. Like, bear in mind, poison is not just damage. Yeah, of course, great at countering revive skills, because, of course, revive skills actually res less if you have poison. Again, great effect for PvP, great effect for world versus world. Just right off the bat, prevents your opponents from getting those revives. Very strong effect, actually. Very, very strong effect. And again, you don't have to do it for the damage. You know, poison is a damaging condition, but it does have that utility effect, and it's the utility effect that's getting buffed here, not actually the damage itself. Really interesting relic. I have to say, I am quite a big fan of the relic design that we're actually seeing with the upcoming patch, actually. This is cool. I think relics have probably let the player base down a little bit, I want to say, because they maybe weren't spicy enough. I almost feel like ArenaNet played it a little bit safer with a lot of the core relics. But it's funny, actually, because I think a lot of the core relics end up being quite oppressive because generic power is often very good. Like, flat 10% healing is very good. It's kind of hard to beat flat 10% healing on every single effect you have with you heal on a combo finisher, if that makes any sense. It's like, one is so much more versatile than the other that these generic modifiers, like the, you know, the one, you know, Firework Relic, Thief Relic, right, Fractal Relic, all that kind of stuff, they become super difficult to actually beat with fun, exciting ones, because the fun, exciting ones are just inherently more niche. I like the direction of this, though, and I hope we see more like this. I think some of these have a lot of potential, because we haven't seen the numbers. Maybe it's like 1 might for 2 seconds, and it's complete trash. But stuff like Midnight King definitely could be good. Demon Queen, oh yeah, have fun with that. Caracosa, I definitely think that's fun. Relic of Norris, yeah, I mean, that, you know, that's for your YouTube montage reel, I guess. Relic of Naos, again, powerful effect, actually, I think. Depends on the numbers. Could still suck if the numbers are very low. And Relic of Febit, also very, very powerful effect, actually. And some great utility for basically anything that has a, you know, a healing skill that it doesn't mind using for a utility effect rather than healing. Like stuff like Mantras on Firebrand, right? Or Mantra, again, on Mesmer, right? Stuff like that. But yeah. There we go. That, my friends, is finally it. We have made it to the end of the November 28th Skills and Balance update, including the Relic preview as well. We have done it. It is actually finally now time to say goodbye to YouTube. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Let me know what you think about all of the changes and what you're excited for, maybe what you're not excited for with all of this stuff coming up. I actually really enjoyed this. You know, I've got to say, a lot of the balance patches have been like, you know, pretty lukewarm. I've got to say, though, this is actually, this is a fun patch. This is actually going to be a fun patch. I think people are going to have fun with this, which is cool. I like that. I love it when we have a fun gaming experience in the video game Guild Wars 2. I like this. And I hope the community gets some good morale from this as well. You know, I think that people are always a little bit kind of anxious about balance and so on, with good reason, to be frank. It's obviously a tricky thing to get right, and historically it's been a little bit messy here and there. But what I really get from these changes, to kind of summarize and have a bit of a conclusion here, what I'd say is that these notes, I think, really convey that the devs know what the hell's going on. I think these are some intelligent changes, actually. So they've identified some really key issues, not just numerically, not just about numbers, but also about fun, right? I think that ArenaNet's been catching some flack for balancing around numbers, and to be fair, they have had to adjust some of the absolutely putrid numbers that have been flying about, and they have been working on that for honestly like the last year. But I think this is a really good patch to show that they are very much interested in making sure that the game is actually fun to play for their players, and identifying some key issues across some multiple professions and then fixing them and trying to create some interesting and exciting options for the players to try and mess around with in this new patch, both with the balance and also with the relics at the same time. And also all these pets. Wow, look at all these pets, guys. It's crazy. But anyway, that's going to about do it. I don't even know. How long did this take? Have I been here for 2 hours? I actually might have been. Like 1 hour was that was probably Mesmer. But anyway, thanks for watching, my friends. Like the video. Follow my stream. Hey, I actually stream this live on YouTube, so watch out for my YouTube streams and my Twitch streams. Follow all my social media. Come back and watch every day. Watch all the YouTube videos. Buy all the things. Video game referral link. You all know the drill. But anyway, my friends, I am out. Good night. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye, YouTube.